Long ago in old Japan, in a land of samurai and emperors, there was a famous sumo wrestler named Forever Mountain. He got the name because he was a mountain of a man. He had great legs like the trunks of trees, great arms, stronger than any other wrestler in his land. And as he was humming to himself walking down the road on his way to the capital, he thought about the other wrestlers he would meet there, how none of them could be as large and strong as he was. As he was humming to himself, he saw a girl climbing up from the bank of a river, carrying a bucket of water on her head. He thought to himself, I'll go tickle this girl. It'll make her laugh and make me laugh, and if it spills the water, well, that'll be funny to see too. And if it does spill the water, I, of course, will go scoop up another bucket. For Forever Mountain was like many of the other sumo wrestlers. He was strong and confident and just a little bit conceited. He walked quickly to catch up with the girl and then poked her in the ribs. Coochie coochie coo! The girl, she laughed and brought her arm down, plunk, trapping Forever Mountain's arm. I got you now, she smiled. Forever Mountain laughed. That's a funny joke, a little girl like you. But when he tried to pull his arm out, he was stuck. What's going on? I can't move my hand. And the girl said, oh, well, you played a joke on me, I thought I'd play a joke on you. Please, let go of me, he said. I'm a famous wrestler named Forever Mountain. I'm going to the capital to wrestle. I can't let people see me with my hand trapped by a girl. But pull as he tried, he couldn't get his hand loose. And he began to worry. The girl kept on walking at the same speed, and Forever Mountain was being tugged behind her. He'd even dig his feet into the ground, but it didn't matter. He couldn't get loose. Suddenly she turned off the main path onto a smaller one up into the mountains. Well, if you're going to be a wrestler, then you should probably learn to be a little stronger than you are right now. I mean, if a girl can catch you, said that young girl, you can't be very strong. Forever Mountain thought about that for a minute. Perhaps he wasn't as powerful as he thought he was. The girl said, well, lucky for you, we're here to help. Why don't you come stay with us for the next 3 months? The competitions don't start until 3 months from now. Stay here, and we'll teach you how to be strong. Forever Mountain really didn't have a choice. She wasn't letting him go. And so he said, okay, I agree. And she lifted up her arm, and Forever Mountain pulled his hand out, and it was red and a little puffy, but otherwise undamaged. Now, you'll probably have to work with Grandma, because, well, she's old and feeble, so she's the one most likely not to hurt you while you're doing work. As they arrived at a small valley, there was a small farmhouse with a thatched roof and some fields, and the young girl called up, "Hello, Mother," and waved. Forever Mountain saw a woman climbing down out of the high meadows with a cow over her shoulders, a great big enormous cow. She set the cow down to wave back to her daughter and Forever Mountain. Now it turned out Forever Mountain learned that the girl's name was Marame. And Marame said, if you stay here, we can probably help you. If you're careful. And don't try to do the things that we do, because some of them take a lot of strength. She called Grandmother, and an old feeble woman came walking slowly out of the house, with a small cane helping her to balance. And she tripped, plump, and fell over some roots of a great oak tree. "I've had just about enough of that tree," said the old woman. She reached her arms around the great oak, hundreds of years old, and she pulled it out of the ground and set it down gently. Forever Mountain wasn't sure what to say. He couldn't lift trees like that. But this old woman could? This was a strange place indeed. Grandmother looked over at Marame's mother and said, "Daughter, please get rid of this tree, but be careful, don't hurt anyone with it." And the mother, who had just arrived with the cow, reached down, picked up the tree, and hurled it up onto the mountain. "Oh, my mistake. I meant to throw it over the mountain. Oh well. I'll just have to climb up there tomorrow morning and move it," said the mother. "And who do we have here?" she said, turning to her daughter. "Oh, this is Forever Mountain," said Marame, "a famous wrestler. He's come here for our help." "Well, I don't know. He looks kind of feeble," said Grandmother. "But we'll see what we can do. We only have 3 months. It's not a lot of time to do much, but enough time to do at least a little, as long as we work hard." And so, from that day on, they began working harder and harder. They fed Forever Mountain only the best and the most difficult of foods, rice. And each day they made the rice with a little bit less water, until it was so hard, Forever Mountain had to crunch it with his great teeth, and his stomach had to digest the grains, almost uncooked. They let him do small jobs around the house, sometimes carrying water, or lifting great barrels, or moving rock. He did the work of 5 men, but still that wasn't as much as Marame could do all by herself. And in the evenings, Forever Mountain would sumo wrestle against Grandmother. They figured that was the safest way to go. And even though he worked hard and pushed and shoved, he couldn't move the old woman. Days went by and weeks went by, until finally at the end of the 3rd month, he was feeling stronger every day, and he went up to a great oak tree, about half the size of the one Grandmother had pulled out of the ground when he had first met her, and he could reach his arms around and pull and strain and plunk, pull it right out of the ground and set it down, gently. He tried to pick it up and hurl it like Mother had done, but he could only toss it a short distance. "Oh well," said Grandmother, "at least you got the first part right. When you're stronger, maybe you can do the other part." And that night, when he was wrestling with Grandmother, he actually was able to pick her up off the ground. The first time he'd ever been able to do that. "That's pretty good," she said. "Maybe you'll be a wrestler after all." And as the time had ended for his training there in the valley, Mother came to him and said, "Forever Mountain, I would like you, would you leave, to take our cow with you and sell it in the village and buy a great silk belt. You can wear that as our gift to you." Okay. Then, I would like to give you a gift as well. Since you've helped me train all these 3 months, I will give you all the prize winnings I make at the contests." Mother said, "Oh, we couldn't do that. We can't take money from a stranger. We did just what all people would do, helping our fellow person." And then Forever Mountain smiled and he said, "Well, then I promise to come back and repay your kindness." And the next day he left, carrying that great cow on his shoulders. He sold it for a lot of money in town, because, of course, it had never walked in its life. It was a very fat, healthy cow. He bought a great big belt and walked the rest of the way to the capital. He gathered with the other wrestlers there, who were boasting and talking and laughing in the great halls, eating great, enormous bowls of rice. Forever Mountain didn't eat large bowls. He ate small bowls, and he didn't boast. And he didn't laugh. He went to bed early. The other wrestlers thought this was rather odd. But when it came time for the contest, all the royalty and courtiers were there in their bright-colored kimonos, their jeweled and golden swords and knives. Behind a screen sat the emperor, who was too important to sit with just the regular people. And the emperor was bored. He hoped someone would end the competition quickly so he could go back to his room and write poetry, his favorite thing to do. Well, the first two wrestlers were Forever Mountain and Great Stomach. Great Stomach was a wrestler who had such a large stomach, it was larger than most other wrestlers. The two of them, they stood around the sumo circle and threw salt into it to scare away the bad spirits. And the two of them entered the circle. Large stomach reached up into the air with his arms, lifted up his one foot and stomped. And it made a great noise. Forever Mountain did the same. Lifted up his great foot and boom! It made such a loud noise it was like an earthquake. And the force of the blow knocked the other wrestler right out of the circle. The wrestler bowed to the emperor and said, "Emperor, it seems that the earth god must be angry about something. Maybe the salt wasn't quite right. I've chosen not to wrestle today." And all the other wrestlers looked at each other when they saw how powerful Forever Mountain was, and they very quickly decided not to wrestle as well. The emperor said, "All the prize money shall go to Forever Mountain." But then, sticking his finger out past the screen, he said, "On one condition. You are not allowed to wrestle in Japan ever again." Forever Mountain smiled. He said, "Oh, great emperor, thank you. And I agree, I shall never wrestle again. In fact, I think I shall go be a farmer up in the mountains." And taking his prize money, he went back to the small valley where Marome and her mother and her grandmother lived. And people say he settled there. And he and Marome, well, they got married. And every once in a while, up in the mountains, they say, you'll hear a great big boom, like the earth shifting. And they say that noise, well, that's probably just the noise of Forever Mountain and grandmother wrestling once again. And that's the end of the story.